I'll call the May 12th, 2015 meeting of the Salem-Keizer School Board to order. Welcome, everybody. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Christie.
Rick Kimball,
Here.
Nancy McMorris Audix. Here. Chris Brantley.
Here.
Jeff Fayville.
Here.
Jim Green.
Here.
Paul Kylo.
Here.
Chuck Lee.
Here.
As far as agenda modifications tonight, we have none. I'll just remind school board members to have your microphones pulled a little closer so we can be picked up for CCTV in the audience. First on the agenda is Spotlights on Success.
Good evening. It's great to have a full house tonight. And our first spotlight will be presented by Karina Lee, Executive Director of the Salem-Keizer Education Foundation.
Good evening. It is a pleasure this evening. As we approach the end of the school year, it's quite common to receive numerous names of volunteers that our schools want to recognize. The awesome volunteers that we are honoring for May are from Inglewood Elementary and Sumter Elementary Schools. If we could please have Kurt Haas, Michelle Muth, Sarah Harrison, Shannon Elkins, and Jennifer Koenig, please come up to the front. And I do believe we have Principal Etchemendy in the house, and I'm not sure if we have Principal Jennifer Pratt in the house, if she wants to accompany. Please join Chair Kimball right there. So Kurt Haas started the SMART reading program at Inglewood Elementary in 2011. He has ordered the books, recruited and scheduled all the volunteers to read with the students. Kurt works with the staff to seek out and help students who would most benefit from the program. He's a regular volunteer in his daughter's classroom and at all other school activities. Each June, Kurt even hosts a thank you dinner at his home for all the Inglewood volunteers. Inglewood staff and community are most appreciative to Kurt for the time and generous spirit he has given to the Inglewood community. Thank you, Kurt. And now Michelle Muth is the Sumter Parent Club president. She is wave so everybody knows who you are. There you go. She is resourceful, connected, and hardworking. If no one else can do it, Michelle will, or she'll recruit one of her family members or friends to help. Michelle is a volunteer who gives endless amounts of her own time. Michelle is creative, a great key communicator, and is passionate about what parents can do for their child's school. Oh, great, good. Jana's joining her. Sarah Harrison, wave, there you go. She co-facilitates Sumter's book fairs. These events are not only opportunities for our community to purchase books, but they invite families into the school to enjoy a special event with their own children, as well as the other families. Sarah spends lots of time supporting Sumter and will fill in where there are holes so tasks and events occur seamlessly. Sarah has a wonderful attitude, and we hear a great sense of humor. She models giving of oneself with grace and pure joy. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah has a partner in crime. Shannon Elkins is the other co-facilitator of Sumter's book fairs. She is always persistent in making sure the theme and the events tied to the event are engaging for an entire family. She believes in developing community in a school. She cares deeply about parental involvement and communicates to other parents how important it is for them to be involved in their children's education. Shannon is vested not only her own children, but in all children at Sumter. Thank you. We understand Jennifer Koenig was not able to be here. Jennifer Pratt, right. Jennifer was not able to be here, but we're going to sure listen and talk about her. She has served as the Sumter Parent Club president for a couple of years and is currently serving as the vice president. She leads, creates, and provides the support the Sumter school community needs to ensure all students at Sumter receive the finest quality education that each student deserves. She is collaborative in nature and is a model volunteer. Sumter staff feel that they would not be the amazing educational environment that it is without their volunteers. So on behalf of the entire community in Salem-Keizer, we thank you all for your support to our schools and to the students of Salem-Keizer School District. Congratulations. Superintendent Perry, on behalf of the Salem-Keizer Education Foundation, I'd like to take this platform on the Volunteer Spotlight and do a shout out to the 600 volunteers that made the Awesome 3000 awesome, and many of you were there with us. Thank you.
Thank you. It was an awesome event, Karina. Our Community Partner of the Month will be presented by Jay Remy.
Thank you, Superintendent Perry, Chair Kimball, and members of the board. And a note to our spotlight recipients, if you want to, you're free to go as soon as you're done because we've got a bunch of people waiting for seats. So feel free to leave if you want to when you're done.
Nice, Jay.
We'd love to have you stay, but I'm just saying for seating purposes. Okay, our Community Partner of the Month is Faith Lutheran Church. And Level Director Susan Adams is standing in for Cummings Principal Lisa Sunseth. And with Faith Lutheran Church, we have Judy Landry. So if you could, Susan and Judy could come forward. Join the board chair up front, please. So Faith Lutheran Church is our community partner for this month. They have partnered with Cummings Elementary since the beginning of this school year. The congregation of Faith Lutheran reached out to Cummings and expressed a desire to support their families and students in need. Every 2 weeks since the end of September, volunteers have delivered 2 large containers overflowing with 50 fully packed brown bags of food. These 2 containers provide food for 25 students each week. Judy coordinates the Backpack Buddies project for the church. She organizes the congregation's volunteers in shopping and filling up the food bags. Food bags are delivered to students by school counselor Kelsey Jekyll. She places the bags inside students' backpacks while the students are at lunch. The students and their families continuously express their gratitude for this gift. If a student gets a new backpack, the student is sure to let Kelsey know what it looks like and where she can find it. These food bags are important to them and help them get through their weekend without hunger. Faith Lutheran's generosity of time, financial support, and commitment has made a tremendous impact on the students and families most in need at Cummings. Due to kindergarten orientation taking place tonight, neither Principal Sunseth nor Cummings staff were able to attend, but they did extend their heartfelt gratitude to Faith Lutheran Church. And we want to say thank you to Faith Lutheran Church as our community partner of the month. Thank you.
Our next spotlight will be presented by Mira Kreitzer, Director of Elementary Education.
Good evening. Could I have Principal Carl Paulson from Candelaria and student Austin Ganger up to the front, please? And Principal from Shirley Elementary, Clinton Gertenridge, and student Jacob Halter, and his teacher, Val Brown, up to the front. Nearly 200 students forming teams of 4th and 5th grades from all across Salem-Keizer elementary schools competed in the 25th running of the Math 24 Challenge on April 4th at McKay High School. Austin Ganger from Candelaria Elementary School won the 4th grade division. Wave, Austin, so everybody knows who you are. Okay. Jacob Halter from Shirley Elementary won the 5th grade division. You can wave too, Jacob. Yeah. We also want to recognize that Sweigel and Sumter Elementary Schools had finalists in the top 5 of each division. Over 100 math students from McKay High School volunteered to organize, promote, and run the competition led by Teresa Grundy, who is the event coordinator and math teacher at McKay High School. Students play the Math 24th card game that emphasizes math skills and number fluency. The challenge features cards that show 4 numbers in each corner. The goal is to use all 4 of those numbers in any combinations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, to teach the number of 24. Austin and Jacob performed at the highest level in the competition and are being recognized for excellence in mathematics. Congratulations, guys.
Our next spotlight will be presented by Kathleen Hanneman, Director of High Schools. There's a lot here.
Thank you, Superintendent Perry, Chair Kimball, and members of the board. We're excited to have 3 high school spotlights tonight, and for the first spotlight, I'd like to call up West High's Assistant Principal, Angela Rasmussen, Teacher Greg Smith, and the West Salem High School Robotics Team. Look at these t-shirts. Those are great t-shirts. Get them all. Okay. On March 5th and 6th, the state robotics competition, the Oregon VEX State Championship, was held in Aurora at North Marion High School. The state championship brings together teams from around the state to design, build, and compete with robots. We would like to recognize the West Salem High School robotic teams and the awards they received. Team Atlas, so when I call your name, you can wave. Irene Esther, Richard Craig, Vincent Gobe, Leo Hine, Matthew Fowler. And they were the state co-champions and qualified and competed in April at the World Competition in Louisville, Kentucky. That's exciting. Team Helios, so wave, Jalen Ridehead, Ben Trout, Luke Gertzman, Johnny Tyler, and Kyle Beyer. Oregon Excellence Award winner, co-semifinalist, and qualified and competed in April at the World Competition in Louisville, Kentucky. Team Prometheus, William Wu, Jonathan Fredericks, and James Chen, the State Programming Skills Champion. Congratulations. Team Kronos, Stephen Kirkpatrick, Philip Smith, and Connor Suderman, co-semifinalist. So congratulations to these students for their award-winning robots. And Angela, if you will stay up there for the next spotlight. All righty. Our second school spotlight is also West Salem High School. And I'll ask Jonathan Williams and Michael Lampert to come up. And students Andrew Iyer, Bradley Noakes, William Wu, and Connor Denning. On April 29th, the Toshiba National Science Teachers Association Exploravision program announced that 4 West Salem High School sophomores, Andrew Iyer, Bradley Noakes, William Wu, and Connor Denning, were awarded the first place win in the annual 2015 Exploravision Championship competition. The students were coached and mentored by teachers Jonathan Williams and Michael Lampert. This year, 5,041 team projects were entered in the competition, representing over 15,000 students from across the United States and Canada. Exploravision is one of the world's largest K-12 science competitions and is a cornerstone of Toshiba's efforts to inspire youth in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math, our STEM skills. The West Salem team proposed the Suture of the Future, which would help heal wounds quickly and safely for patients who take blood thinners. The device would speed up the healing process by binding edges of a cut together with stem cells. The suture could be applied externally or intravenously. For their win at the national competition, each student won a $10,000 savings bond and an all-expense-paid trip to Washington, D.C. in June for the Exploravision Awards weekend. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to call up McKay Principal Sarah Leroy and McKay High School Senior Giovanni Corona Quevedo. I'd also like to call South Salem High School Principal Laura Tiffin and student Leo Davila. And we'll first talk about our McKay student. McKay High School Senior Giovanni Corona Quevedo and South Salem High School Senior Leo Davila were notified in April that they were awarded the 2015 Gates Millennium Scholarships. These students will each receive a full scholarship to attend any college of their choice. It's a biggie. The students will also be provided with personal and professional development programs along with academic support throughout their college careers. The Gates Millennium Scholars Program is funded by a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill Gates is the co-founder, former chairman of Microsoft. Giovanni and Leo were selected for these scholarships that are available to only 1,000 students nationwide. A recommendation letter for McKay Senior Giovanni stated that he should be selected for the scholarship as he is one of the most inquisitive, mature, and committed students a teacher could hope to teach. He has excellent work ethic, strong interaction as a classroom leader, and is a highly motivated student. Most impressive is that English is not his first language. He came to the U.S. when he was in 3rd grade and had no prior knowledge of the English language. He took advantage of every possible opportunity to learn the language and read whatever he could. His academic excellence, leadership abilities earned him acceptance into the National Honor Society. He is also active in the Future Business Leaders of America and Mu Alpha Theta, a National Mathematics Honor Society. Giovanni plays competitive club level soccer, currently plays tennis for McKay, and is the tennis team captain. He has earned the award as the most dedicated player. He is well liked and respected by his peers and teachers due to his exceptional academic talents, work ethic, social grace, and overall love of learning. Congratulations. And he's going to Portland State, right? Good. Majoring in criminology and psychology. So that's exciting. Leo Davila is a student at South Salem High School and is described as an amazing young man with a kind and compassionate spirit. Throughout his high school career, he has taken international baccalaureate classes and is pursuing the IB certificate in the discipline of biology. He not only has taken rigorous courses, but is a member of DECA and the Zambia Club at South Salem. He's been a participant in the Willamette Academy since 8th grade and weekly spends hours volunteering at Salem Hospital. He has organized a fundraiser which has raised over $800 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. One big part of Leo's story, and we have written parental permission to share this with you, and this is what makes his success so amazing, is that Leo has kept a 3.96 GPA despite missing most of his freshman year. The story of his life begins in the 4th grade when he was diagnosed with leukemia. In the 9th grade, after going through numerous treatments and thinking that the leukemia was in remission, he found out that it had reappeared. A bone marrow transplant kept him from attending school his freshman year. He then started a new chapter and recently celebrated being 3 years cancer-free. We probably should applaud. Through hard work and makeup classes taken each summer, Leo will graduate on time. It is his plan to attend Oregon State and major in pre-med. The Gates Millennium Scholarship Program is more than a scholarship, it's an opportunity to change a life. Congratulations, Giovanni and Leo.
Well, that was exciting.
You know, Mr. Chair, if I'm not mistaken, not to take away from his academic credentials, but Andrew Iyer, who was here earlier, also won the district golf tournament on Monday, shooting a 69.
Okay, that's it with Spotlight on Success with a follow-up by Jim there. Audience communications, this is on agenda items. We have one person to sign up, who signed up to speak regarding agenda items. Christine Clark, if you can come forward and state your name and address for the record. 3 minutes, please, on your presentation. Christine, are you here? Christine Clark? No? Okay. Anybody who wanted to speak who didn't get a chance to sign up? Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to action items. Our first action item tonight, we have 3. The first one is a vote on candidates for the Willamette Educational Services District Board. The Willamette ESD has a governance structure that differs from school districts. Of the 9-member board, 5 members are elected by the boards of the school districts that are served by the Willamette Educational Services District. This includes districts that have withdrawn from the WSD. The remaining 4 members are then appointed by the newly elected board members of the ESD. Salem-Keizer School Board is required by the Willamette Education Service District policy to vote for candidates from the district zones to serve, from 2 district zones to serve on the ESD Board of Directors. And those zones are Zone 4 and 5. The results from any vote are provided to the ESD, and in this case by June 5th of 2015. And tonight we have action on one of those seats. The other position will come forward next year. In this action, each board member will have a vote for 1 candidate per position, and that one position is Zone 4 tonight. And we have 1 candidate applicant, which is Phil Fry, and you have his resume in the board plate. Phil is here in the audience. He came in case we had any questions of him. So we have a nomination from the ESD for their board, and we're going to take action on that unless you have any questions. Okay, all in favor of Phil Fry serving on the ESD board in Zone 4 position, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous, Christie, 7-0. You want a ballot? Is that why you gave me that look?
No.
Okay.
Was
Okay.
there a motion?
Well, the nomination's already in. It came from the ESD, so I think we're okay. All right, the second next action item has to do with revisions. Thanks for coming down tonight, Phil. Has to do with revisions to board policies. The school board has discussed revisions to our results policies over several work sessions, and staff has worked directly with board leadership to craft recommended revisions based on the board's discussions during those work sessions. The following revised policies are attached with the new language underlined and language to be removed struck through. And there's 2 parts to the results policy. There's the R1, which is the governing statement. In that section, there were adds of language. We added language formerly that was formerly on the academic achievement policy, which is R2, which delineates the board's ultimate goal of individual students making at least 1 year of academic progress every year. We had discussion amongst board members during our meetings, and found that it would not be feasible to measure that as part of the superintendent's evaluation, but it is still a goal, so it'll be, it's recommended we move that to the R1 section, the governing statement. In the R2 section, which is the academic achievement section, which is the meat of the results policy, we remove language that speaks about the OAKS test and replaced it with the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium test, the SBAC. And we set a timeline on when baseline data will be established and when that data will be used to evaluate the superintendent. We have to get a year or two of history on it, taking this test to get the baseline data. So board leadership recommends to the school board that we adopt the revisions as they're presented. So we bring it to you tonight for action. We had a first reading on April the 14th. So Nancy?
I move adoption.
Have a move by adoption by Nancy. Any second?
Second.
Second by Paul. Discussion. Chris?
For the audience, this isn't a surprise to these folks. I emailed them what I was going to say last night. As I said at the last board meeting, I was going to vote against this motion, not because I'm particularly not in favor of the results policy, but because I don't think we followed our own policy in arriving at it. So I have a statement that I wanted to read just so people will fully understand where I'm coming from. When I ran for the school board, I had several coffees in living rooms around town, and most, if not all, the topic of board discussions came up. Most people who had followed the board's work blamed policy governance for stifling the conversation of the school board. With that in mind, I read and reread the information I received on how policy governance was supposed to operate. I have come to the conclusion that our lack of meaningful discussion and debate is not a problem caused by policy governance. It is a problem caused by our unwillingness as a board to properly implement it. The Carver Guide on Policy Governance provided to each of us as we join the board is clear that the board must agree about three things: how we're going to work together, how we will work with the superintendent, and what the outcomes of the organization should be. This evening, my concern is with the last of the three, the outcomes for students and families in the school district. Our school board policy that defines the role of the school board includes this statement: determining and using proactive strategies to ensure constructive, two-way dialogue for inputs from students, staff, parents, and citizens as a means to link with the entire community around the board's results policies. The Carver Guide says that this interaction with the community forms the foundation of everything else we do and should focus not on the measurement tools, but on developing a commonly held vision of what our graduates should know and be able to do. It is clear in that literature that picking measurement tools should come only after this vision is agreed upon. The previous board that adopted our policy governance model must have agreed because they included in our policy about setting the board's agenda this statement, again in our policy. The planning cycle will start with the board's development of its agenda for the next year and will include education related to results policies. For example, presentations by futurists, demographers, advocacy groups, staff, etc. The results policy we have before us this evening is not based on commonly held vision about outcomes. There has been no discussion as to whether the measures contained in the policy give feedback on what this community values in its graduates. In the 6 years I've been on the board, we have not had any conversations with our community to determine what they value, nor have we made any attempt to develop a common vision around outcomes. I've been told by board leadership that it would require 3 members of the board to put such discussions on our agenda. I contend that at least 4 members of the previous board that adopt policy governance voted to include the policy statements I've just read. So I fail to see why 3 of the current board must agree to do what our policy says is our job. Our board meetings agendas are short, so I see no reason not to include the sessions called for in our policy through invited testimony of panels of key stakeholders. We seem to be canceling most of our work sessions recently due, I assume, to lacking things to work on. So it likewise seems absolutely doable to have visioning sessions to develop our list of desired outcomes for our students and then discuss how they might be measured and what our standards of success would be. So for the reasons that we have not followed our own policy and the tenets of policy governance in arriving at this results policy, I'll be voting no this evening. It is my hope that others will join me. The development of a results policy is one of our important functions. Adopting a policy that has not been informed by the community and a common vision of outcomes shows a failure of our process. We need to go back to work on this.
Any other discussion or comments? Okay, seeing none, we have Nancy.
Over the course of the last few years, we have rewritten our governing statement to include a reworking of the student goals that include the outcome criteria. The successful high school graduate will have the knowledge and skills to communicate effectively both orally and in writing, think critically, identify and solve problems using multiple strategies, assess and analyze information, develop a positive self-concept, respect for others, and healthy behavior patterns, work effectively with others and lead by influence, adapt to change, demonstrate initiative, creativity, and appreciation for the arts, demonstrate civic, global, and environmental responsibility, and recognize and value diversity among people. In addition, when we had our annual results discussion this year, we had a long discussion about the kinds of data that would help us understand whether our kids are finishing our programs ready for the next level, whatever they choose that next level to be, and how we could get that information from colleges, from career tech, from the workforce. I just think that I have to disagree that we have not had these conversations. I also believe that in a time where we have been cutting for most of my time on the board and we're beginning to add back, we have a school district that's under a considerable amount of stress. We have a transition to Common Core going on. We have a new test that this is the exact wrong time to give the message to the teachers in our district that we want to begin a conversation about changing the endpoint. So I think this is a really bad time to do anything but to continue our current results policy.
Jeff?
I felt like Chris made a good point that we haven't had the community. Each one of us as individuals have had input from people in the community, and we have sought that. And we are representatives of the communities, and we get input. So in that sense, we have received some of the much of the input that has gone into what has made this results policy. But at the same time, I don't think that we've had quite enough discussion with stakeholder groups and bringing people in to get the input. It might not change this at all, but I think that we have had the time, and I feel like it'd be worth my time as a board member to participate in that. So I will join Chris with this vote.
Chris?
What Nancy said is what we've discussed in the past. I just will reread our policy. Determining and using proactive strategies to ensure constructive two-way dialogue for input from students, staff, parents, and citizens as a means to link with the entire community around the board's results policies. And under agenda planning, it will include education related to results policies, presentations by futurists, demographers, advocacy groups, and staff. We haven't done those. And it's our own policy. That's how we say we're going to come up with a results policy, and we're not doing it.
Anybody else? Comments? Discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Tim.
I disagree with Chris's analysis of what we've done here, because we have had discussions with staff, which is in our agenda planning policy, with regard to our results policy. That's why we're doing this tonight. We sat down, we took a look at our results policy, we said we needed to change it in order to do the evaluation of the superintendent. I disagree with Chris's analysis. I think Nancy's absolutely correct. Maybe we could do more board member outreach, But in the year that I was board chair, we spent that entire year doing a superintendent search. And I can't think of a better community outreach than what we did that year in those meetings out at Claggett Creek. What our community said and where they wanted this school district to go, we listened to very closely as a board. We went back out for a superintendent search because of what the community said. So I think we listened very clearly to what the community said, picked a leader that is taking us in a direction I think we need to go, and accordingly we needed to adjust our results policy in order to do her evaluation moving forward. We've changed the tests at the state level. We need to assure that our students are moving forward. But I haven't heard any community member in any of the discussions I've had say that our results policy or what we want for boys or girls isn't what we need in this school district. So Chris, I understand your passion, but I wholeheartedly disagree with you.
Anybody else?
Could I make one statement?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
98% of our communication has been with district staff. And we have received, other than the superintendent search, which had a totally different objective in mind, we have received almost no input on outcomes for students. We've received a lot of input on what people wanted as a superintendent, but not outcomes for students, which is what this policy is about.
Chuck, for you?
Yeah, I would just agree with both Jim and Nancy on this. I think that the process that we've gone through has been sound. I respect Chris and his viewpoints. I'd love to have more conversation on this, but there's nothing in what he says that compels me to vote anything but yes on this. As far as listening to the community, and I'm not alone here, but we're out at Rotary meetings. I've attended meetings with Christy where she's talked to the business community. I've been involved with the Chamber of Commerce. Through my role with CTEC, I'm speaking with business owners. Also a lot of contact with kids through Leadership Salem and other things. So, you know, I think that to imply that we're not taking into consideration the needs of the community is not true. I think everything that we do as a board member reflects the fact that we're elected officials, we're listening to our constituents, and we're right on board with kind of the spirit of what this policy should be. And I know the first year I was on the school board, we had listening sessions, and that would be easy to do. But I really think that if you're going to find out what this community thinks about our schools and what they want to see with our students, we need to be out in the community communicating with them. The easy way is to sit in a room and listen to some people talk to us, but it takes a lot of work to be visible in the community and trying to really represent people that elect you to this position. So I'll be voting yes.
Let me go to, okay, Jeff, you're going to yield to
You
Chris?
can go
Okay,
first.
Chris?
I just want to come back against that and say that we have a policy that says we're going to have proactive strategies to ensure constructive two-way dialogue with the board about results policies. Each of us do exactly what you're talking about, but I don't remember any of us ever coming back and saying, well, here's what I've learned in my discussions with the community. Here's what I've learned in discussions with the community about outcomes. Yes, we talk to people about a lot of things, but outcomes has not ever been the focus of a discussion that we've had where we decide what it is that we want to see students know and be able to do. And that's why I'm going to lose this. I recognize that. I see you're all going to vote against me, but I just, I've been fussing with this in my head for 6 years on this board, and we just plain don't interact meaningfully around results policy with our community, and I can't vote yes for, even though I see nothing inherently wrong with this as a results policy. As I said last time, I don't know that it's complete because I haven't talked with the people that would tell me that.
Jeff?
Having listened to the discussion and thinking about it, I actually will, since I do support the policy here, I will vote for it, even though I am still in favor of having some more community outreach that is targeted toward outcomes. I think that is a good a good thing to seek more input on. And so I'm up for having those discussions, but I will support this, this policy as it's written.
Anything else anybody wants to add? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second regarding adopting the results policy as presented in the board plate. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, we have 6-1, Christie, and the motion passes. Thank you for that discussion, everybody.
Thanks.
All right, the next area on the agenda is the consent calendar. Generally,
We've got one ahead of
oh,
time.
excuse me, I'm moving too fast.
You are.
Got my pages all mixed up here. All right, potential sale of Rosedale Elementary School. Christie?
This is your second reading on the potential sale of Rosedale, and I just want to give you a couple additional items that were asked for at the last time we discussed. So Rosedale was constructed in 1952, and several renovations to 1985. It's about 22,000 square feet with 8 classrooms. There's an 1,800 square foot portable that was added in 1991 with 2 classrooms. The acreage is 6.1 acres. Traditionally, we look at 10 acres for an elementary school, and there's much of the topography on that area that you would not be able to build on. The property is outside of the urban growth boundary, so there's not a good way to forecast future development, which will actually occur and where. The lease revenue is approximately $100,000 per year with a 3% or CPI escalation, whichever is less. Value of the property is determined through the appraisal process, and we have not completed an appraisal at this point. Population Research Center at PSU projects a 2% decline in the K-5 student enrollment over the next 10 years. Interesting. Initial 10-year lease period is through 2022. The district would have to pay for all improvements to the facility and property. The district retains ownership during the lease period and is responsible to replace major infrastructure systems, HVAC, roofs, etc. The district retains liability and risk for the property, and we do have at least one motivated buyer. So those are the questions that came out of our last reading of this policy. We still recommend that the school board take the first formal action towards authorizing the potential sale of Rosedale Elementary School by declaring in the judgment of the board the property is not required for school purposes, and authorize the district's chief operations officer to list the school for sale.
Okay, we have a recommendation from staff. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Paul, second by Chris. Discussion? Jim?
So I remember when we voted to close Rosedale, and it was a close vote, and it was a tough vote. I know community members, parents, students, former students of all these schools testified before the board. I voted on the losing side, but I support what the board did. That's what we do as a school board. If you lose, you move on. But I think in this instance, it makes sense to list the property as surplus property and put it up for sale. I think when we tag that with the proceeds from Middle Grove Elementary School, another school, small elementary school that we closed, we can use those funds for the transition program, for the crowding at McKay High School, and some of the other things that staff has identified for us. And in light of our funding situation potentially moving forward in the next biennium, I think it makes sense to address those issues now and use the proceeds from these sales to address those issues within our school district.
Nancy and then Chris.
I'm going to vote no on this. I have a lot of trouble believing that our K-5 population is going to decrease by that amount. And I think this is a school that, unlike some of the very tiny schools that we closed, this is a school that has a potential to really help us with overcrowding. I do recognize the value of the income that could be raised, and I have a sense I'm not going to prevail on this vote, but I will be voting no.
Chris?
I've shared with Christy, and I'll do it publicly now, that my feeling about this school is not at all about what it was with Middle Grove. With Middle Grove, we had a small school on a small property at a very busy intersection that really was not a good place for elementary school kids in our school district, and we had a motivated buyer, and my attitude was that that's a good reason to sell. This one, I'm a little different. I'm sort of with Nancy in terms of I really don't want to give away a piece of property that is going to help us when we move into larger populations, I guess is the right way to say it. However, we closed that school because it was less efficient to run a small school. That was the reason. And it will never be more efficient to run a small school. And as much as I would love to see all of our schools about that size and have that personal kind of attitude, it's just inefficient to do it that way. And I think we need to be looking at larger buildings in a district this size. So I'm going to support it, even though I want it to be known that I don't want to give it away. It's too good a building to just give away. So I think the value of it's going to be a big factor in my voting yay or nay on down the way.
Jeff?
I'm going to be supporting Salem Rosedale, but not so much even on a financial level, but on an educational level. I support what Abequah is doing out there, and they are providing a good education for a lot of students. And so for that block of students to be able to get that education and us be able to get proceeds to be able to put toward more education seems like a great trade, or kind of a double benefit. So I will be supporting it for that reason.
Chuck?
Yeah, I'll be supporting it too, but I want to remind everyone, this isn't the decision to sell. I think that we need to kind of see what dollar amounts really come out of this before we make any judgments. And I'm in favor of at least putting it out there to see, and then we can make a decision later as to whether or not it's a prudent move to sell. So I'll be voting yes to put it on the market and withholding my judgment until I see what it goes for.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve staff recommendation that we declare Rosedale School that is not required any longer for school purposes by Salem-Keizer School District. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
We have 6 ayes and 1 no. Motion passes. Okay, on to consent calendar. In this area, we have 3 items tonight. We have the grant budget area, adoption and appropriation of grant budgets, and under personnel, we have personnel actions and administration personnel actions. Is there any item here a board member needs to pull for further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the entire consent calendar. Jeff so moves. Second?
Second.
Second by Jim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Christie. Thank you, everybody. All right, on to readings. We have 1 reading tonight regarding the adoption of elementary literacy materials, and Neil Anderson is going to take care of the presentation for the district. Thanks, Neil.
Chairperson Kimball, Superintendent Perry, members of the board. This is a first reading of where we're at with the adoption of elementary literacy materials. You have the board plate in front of you. I'm assuming you've all read it, so let me talk to you about the process that we used to get to where we are today with the 2 finalists. As you can see in the back, the 2 finalists of Pearson and Benchmark are here, and encourage you to peruse those as you can. And they are also available to be viewed publicly at the Paulus Administrative Building for the next several weeks from 8 to 5 in the afternoons, Monday through Friday. And we have feedback forms that our members of our public can fill out to give us their thoughts and their opinions of that. How we got to where we are today started back in the fall with listening sessions that I attended along with Superintendent Perry and other level directors at our elementary schools through school support team meetings, school visitations, and other listening sessions that I put together as I transitioned into my new role as the Director of Instructional Services. And in those meetings, Staff, principals, instructional coaches, teachers spoke regularly and consistently about the need to have a foundational set of materials. They are spending a lot of time looking for various materials to address our implementation and alignment with Common Core. They wanted to streamline that approach and have resources made available to them that they can quickly access that would not only address the Common Core, but also talk about strong leverage instructional practices found both in English and in Spanish. Likewise, we talked about the mobility of our students and the need to have consistency across our schools when students move, because when students move between schools and schools have different guaranteed and viable curriculums, gaps can occur in their sequence of learning. And with that information, I brought together a team of individuals that were made up of special education, our English language acquisition specialists, and other content PAs from both elementary and the secondary level to go through what we call the fact-finding mission. And what we did is we looked at all the model demonstration schools and blue ribbon schools in our state and other states, looking at the criteria based on the bullet points that you had in your board plate to look for materials that would address our needs. From there, we also visited, this team and I visited elementary schools in our state that were using the materials that we saw that met the criteria based on the bullet points. And so we visited McMinnville, who has Benchmark. We visited Hood River, who was implementing Wonders and Maravillas. We visited Tiger Tualatin, who had implemented Journeys and Sonderos, and we visited Albany School District, who had implemented the most recent, not the newest, version of Pearson ReadyGen. From that information, we arranged for presentations of our 4 finalists, which were the 4 I just named, for our principals and instructional coaches, literacy experts, and reading specialists. And those were, the 4 presentations were immediately following spring break. Received and gathered their feedback, and from that feedback, we whittled it down to our final 2, which you see behind you. Most recently, we had, or not behind you, in front of you, behind me. Recently, we also had our teachers. We brought together teachers from our schools that have, we targeted, not only Sandy Price's 13 Title I focus taught schools, but also non-title and title schools from around our school district. Brought teachers from those schools together to have presentations from our finalists, from the publishers themselves, and gathered their feedback. And that was over the day of April 27th. And from there, we have now made it public that other schools have come in. And we've had full schools and their entire staff come and visit the materials, go through the materials, and provide us our feedback. But consistently, the message we have heard is from the staff through their feedback is, thank you for doing this, thank you for including me, and thank you for hearing us and the needs that we have. And whichever one we pick, they might have their preference, but whatever one they pick, they have consistently said, that is better than what we currently have, because it provides us consistency and a quality that we can build our professional learning communities from, professional development around, and from our first-year teachers, newest teachers, to our veteran teachers, they can see the connections. And so that's how we got today, and that's where the first reading is for you tonight, so you can understand where we came from and the 2 finalists of Pearson ReadyGen 2016, because it's their most newest version, and Benchmark Literacy, which are behind me for the community to now interact with and see as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have of process or the materials.
Okay, no vote tonight. This first reading. Nancy?
Just a little confused about the process in my completing my 6th year on the board, my first any kind of curriculum adoption.
Right. The last one was in 2002.
Yeah,
So.
it's kind of sad. But, so, it's my understanding that the board has to approve a curriculum adoption. And so you today are bringing us information about your process and that there are 2 options out there. Am I accurate in thinking that before the June meeting, you will have come to some consensus with all this information you've gathered, and you will come forward to us and say, this
Here
is
is
the
my
one we
recommendation.
think you should pick?
Yes.
Good, because I don't want to be the one to pick.
Yes, I think Superintendent Perry ultimately has that, but I think I'll be part of that choosing process as well. But yes, we are going to be gathering all the information that we've had and I will be sitting down and looking at it, going thoroughly through that, and then I'll be presenting my recommendation to Superintendent Perry and the members of Cabinet, which will then come to you all for the recommendation of purchase at the June meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim?
So, maybe this is a question for our superintendent, but I don't have my budget book in front of me. I remember this is part of the expenditure budget. It's a little over 4 million, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's not to cover all of our elementary schools, is that correct as well?
We don't quite have the answer to that because we'll have to be in the middle of negotiating with whichever publisher we choose.
Okay.
Our goal is that we will have enough for all. We're implementing in cycles. We know that we don't have the magnitude to implement across all 44 in the first year. But depending on how far that money stretches, we could even purchase some for that next implementation cycle. And we'll have a better sense of that once we are in negotiations with the publisher.
So it's about, Paul is showing me it's about
4.5.
4.5.
Correct.
And I just got to say, I'm really excited about this because if I had one group of employees in the district come to me, call me, email me, say, Jim, let's go have coffee at where our elementary teachers, to say, we're really challenged in the curriculum department for elementary. I mean, I got the stories that our staff were pulling stuff off the internet, making copies, taking it to their PLCs, to their PLTs, and saying, well, let's do this. And while they tried to make that standard across the district, and that's no reflection on our elementary directors, that's just where we found ourselves. And the level of frustration from the elementary teachers was palpable. And I'm really happy that we're moving in some sort of direction, because if we haven't done a curriculum adoption or a textbook adoption since 2002, one, I agree with Nancy, that's embarrassing. Two, it's time, especially with Common Core standards and the Smarter Balanced Assessment coming out. I've heard from our elementary teachers that have looked through both of these. One of them said, I like one over the other, but either one's better than what we've got right now. So I'm happy to see this in the budget. I'm happy to see it moving forward, and I'll be excited to look through the materials and look forward to our June vote on this.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you, Jim. You're welcome. And just to emphasize that, we started with thinking about 13 schools, but based on exactly what Jim was talking about, we've gone from 13 to 18 to 19, and more schools keep lining up to want to be part of this, and that's exciting because of exactly what we just shared tonight, because they want that, and they need that, and we want to support it.
Okay, I'm going to insert myself here a minute. This is not 2002 was the last adoption of literacy. We've done an adoption in math since I've been on the board, and I joined
Correct.
in 2005. So we've had some
We did Spanish
adoptions.
a couple years ago.
Spanish.
Is that what you were, Chris, go ahead.
This is elementary adoption. Literacy doesn't stop at 6th grade or 5th grade.
Correct.
Are there plans to move ahead with middle and high school?
Interesting you just asked that, Chris. We have had conversations with other providers about what we've heard from the secondary level, particularly high school, is the need to have a variety of different texts that they can use. So a connection of poetry, nonfiction, literary. So we've continued to explore to see what else is out there that might support that, but we haven't formally gone in any direction besides potentially looking at what's there, what other school districts are using to address that same similar call or need. I will say that regardless of what we get, the state standards will drive the instruction of which we do. And I think that's important because the material needs to support the learning of students based on what the outcome should be, and the outcome is measured through that state standards. And so, though we've ventured into conversations at the secondary level, we want to be really mindful to learn about what the need really is before we embark on any direct work in that capacity, much like we did this past fall for the elementary literacy adoption.
Any other questions of Neil tonight? All right, this will come back before us next month for action.
Yeah, and I'll hang out after if you have other specific questions I can answer for you.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, that's our only reading tonight. On to reports. We have one report regarding the strategic plan. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Perry.
And I will turn it over to Jay Remy, our Communications Director, to give his strategic plan to continue to implement the plan and tools to help schools communicate more effectively with parents and key community partners regarding instruction and student achievement.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Perry, Chair Kimball, members of the board. By way of really quick review, we started with a survey of parents and patrons a couple years ago to find out what information they wanted from schools that they weren't currently getting, or they weren't getting it as clearly as they would like. And the 4 themes that emerged were: what is my child learning? How is my child doing in school? How can I help at home? And what does it take to graduate? So the response, after meeting with principals, teachers, curriculum staff, and some parent groups, we came up with this, which was the Parent's Guide to Graduation, which we've presented already here to the board, and the online versions. There's an English website and a Spanish website. We printed 80,000 copies, and so if you had a first grader, you got one mailed to your home a few weeks ahead of conferences, and then the teacher had one, and it was just geared toward first grade. If you had a first grader, you got the first grade pamphlet, and then your teacher had one for you at parent conferences in November. And we're going to change that a little bit, and I'll talk about that. So afterwards, we did a survey and found out that staff and parents really liked it. The parents found it easy to use and helpful. They especially liked the sections on state standards and graduation requirements. I think it helped not only the information that was in the print version, but the websites have a lot of extras. So once you get there, you have links to all kinds of information about graduation, state requirements and things, and I think that's one of the things that parents found very helpful. 88.3% of staff found it very helpful in talking to parents. So they really appreciated having it available at conferences to talk through with parents and to give them. On the website, the English language website got a total page views of 23,561 page views, that's clicks, between September 30th and April 21st. The desktop traffic was 65% of it, 35% was mobile, so that's people using their phones. Interesting. The Spanish site had fewer page views, but we were impressed that we did get 3,161 page views on the Spanish site, and that was much more heavily geared toward desktop traffic, 77% desktop and only 13% mobile on the Spanish site. So the bottom line is that we believe it was highly successful. We're going to update it, redo it again. I failed to mention that we had generous support from Service Master of Salem and MAPS Credit Union. They each donated $5,000 for printing and postage, and we're very hopeful that they're going to do that again this year. We think they will, and we're already grateful, anticipating that they will, and that's a big boost in this project. But I think we are going to make it available at schools during conferences and online, because we got such a positive response to the online that we think that should cover it. And we probably can save ourselves a lot of, well, we know we'll save a lot of postage and half our print cost, by only making it available in print at school and online. And we will definitely work on pumping up the numbers on the Spanish website, do a little more outreach to try to get more page views there. And, either mobile or desktop, we don't really care how they're accessing it as long as they're getting the online version. So we'll just try to pump up that a little bit. So that's kind of the review on that.
Questions, comments? Jim?
So as a father of an incoming freshman, the guide to graduation was very helpful, Jay.
Oh, thank you.
Amy and I sat down with it, went through it with Reese, my son that's coming in to be a freshman next year. The only thing I would say and make a suggestion to, and they may have been available, my son may not have picked them up or they may have ran out, is the course guides that go to the high schools. I would suggest we place those in the middle school for the 8th graders to have to take home. Their little newspaper kind of course guides for the high school that's coming up that has the course description, the course number, what curriculum. We had to go up to Sprague to get ours, and I think it's probably just a little more user-friendly to have those available at the middle school. It was no problem. Curtis and the staff at Sprague were happy to give them to us, but it's just something to think about. I'm not sure if all middle schools have them. Some do, some don't. They may have run out at Crossler, but I can tell you that the graduation guide was really helpful.
Thank you.
At least in our planning of what we see moving Reese towards graduation out at Sprague High School. So, and I've heard from other parents that really appreciated the guide coming out.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Nancy?
I just have a comment. I really applaud this work, I think. I remember back to getting at conferences this document that was put out by the Department of Education that like listed all the standards in EduSpeak. And, you know, feeling like I had a fair amount of education, and yet I'd look at this list and think, what exactly is it that they're trying to make sure my kid knows by the end of the year? So having something in a language that's understandable to parents, parents who aren't teachers, I think is really, really helpful.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none,
Okay,
thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
All right, next is information items. You should see our schedule there in the board plate and upcoming meetings. And remember, on Monday and Tuesday next week, we have our budget hearings regarding the superintendent's proposed budget with our budget committee. And here in this room at 6 o'clock both nights, we'll have a public hearing both nights, taking public testimony on the budget. And on the 19th, to start our deliberations and go on to the 20th if we need to or longer. All right, that's it for information. Next is audience communications on non-agenda items. And we have two people signed up. First, Adam Kohler. Adam, if you come forward and state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thanks for waiting around until we got to this point.
I apologize if I yawned. I was up late last night reviewing a budget document.
Adam
And you
sits on
came
our
back
budget
for
committee.
another
so
night.
We appreciate his service on that. So.
Superintendent Perry, Chair Kimball, members of the board. My name is Adam Kohler, and I'm here today in my role as a operations manager for CenturyLink, located here in Salem, Oregon. Many of you may be aware, but CenturyLink annually offers a educational grant program where we have grant proposals up to $5,000 that we award to schools within our territory. We award $1.4 million a year throughout our 38 states that we have our services. For the 2014-2015 cycle, we actually awarded 13 grants in the state of Oregon, totaling a total of $59,374. I'm happy to announce that out of those 13 grants in the state of Oregon, 3 of them are here in our school district, the Salem-Keizer School District. We previously had a recognition ceremony for Frank Hansen, who received a $5,000 grant for use by McNary High School for his paperless classroom project. And then yesterday, we actually had an event over at Claggett Creek Middle School where Benjamin Dalgas received a $4,680 grant for his reading, writing, and research in the digital age project. That one, he's buying 20 computers for the schools, which is fantastic. We have a little bit of a different scenario here in that the grant submission was submitted by a long-term substitute. And so I've invited Principal Bridget Weldon from Walker Middle School here to speak for a moment about this grant. And she would like to talk to you a little bit about Todd Anderson and his paper. Obviously, we're going to be awarding a grant for $4,998 for Mr. Anderson's proposal, The Innovation of STEM. So if you'd like to say a few words.
Thanks for having us. So, yeah, we are in a unique situation that Todd Anderson was our long-term substitute for computer education courses at Walker during the first semester, and we are so lucky that he submitted this grant to be awarded close to $5,000. The money is going to be spent buying VEX kits, which is very similar to Lego robotics. So we have a large number of students that are very interested, and it'll feed perfectly up with our feeder high school of West Salem High School. So we're tapping into the students' interests in our elective field and then also incorporating the STEM, as Adam mentioned. So thank you, Mr. Anderson. Many students at Walker will benefit from this.
So just to let you know, the first thing that my EVP, my executive vice president, told me when I mentioned that it was a long-term substitute that submitted the grant application, he said, the school should hire him. Before I leave, I just want to mention that this is an annual program. I do have 2 kids in the Salem-Keizer School District, and the way that I approach things is if there are budget dollars out there, I want them in my community. I want them here in the Salem-Keizer School District. So please spread the word and be on the lookout. In September, the October timeframe, we'll be opening up the 2015-2016 cycle, and I think that we can double this number and get 6 scholarship winners here. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, next is Bob Allen. You can state your name and address at the podium here for the record and take 3 minutes for your comments.
My name is Bob Allen. I live at 457 Hawthorne Avenue, Northeast in Salem, Oregon. I am a parent of 2 children that go to school in the Salem-Keizer School District. They both attend Leslie Middle School. My son is diagnosed with Asperger's, which is an autism spectrum disorder. And so he's a very smart child, but socially, his social skills are and will always be at an age younger than his 13 years of age now, and he'll always be behind his kids socially. As a result, he, like many Asperger children, becomes a victim of bullying in the public schools. And now my son is in 8th grade, and we've been dealing with bullying now for 6 years. And he attended Richmond, where the bullying never stopped. I talked to the principal endless times, nothing happened. Your policy says that every time there's an allegation of bullying, that the principal will investigate and write up a bullying report, and your policy says those are public records. My first 2 requests were ignored completely for those public records, because I wanted to see, did they even do the investigation? My 3rd request was responded to with a letter that said, we have reviewed the investigations and found that they were appropriate. My 4th request for those documents was responded with a letter that those are not public records. However, your policy on the web continues to say that they are. So after 2 years at Richmond with constant bullying and nothing stopping it, we took him out and we got him into the charter school there, Valley Inquiry, where he was bullied once in the 2 years that he attended. And those children were immediately suspended, and he was never bullied again while attending that school. So I know it can be stopped. But then 6th grade came, and we couldn't get him into a charter school, so he went to his middle school, which is Leslie Middle School. The bullying started again. I've had endless conversations with the principal, the vice principal. We report it over and over again. They say they do something, but nothing's stopping it. So he gets, as children with Asperger's do, he gets the kind of, I forget the medical name for it, but it's like a stress attack. He's unable to learn in that condition, and it takes at least several days to go away. Often he's unable to go to school in that condition. Now, we recently got a letter from the school saying that if our child doesn't attend school more often, they're going to report us to law enforcement, which is very irritating, since if they would just protect my child the way I would protect my child, he wouldn't have this problem in the first place. Now, yesterday, in the lunchroom, one of the kids started stealing his food, ate some of his tater tots, stole his pencils, stole his chocolate milk, eventually returned them. He told I forget if it's principal or vice principal, but his name there at Leslie Middle School is Lonnie. And that person did talk to the individual perpetrating, the lead individual, and then left, but the bullies remained in the cafeteria and continued to bully my son. He went and he told the teacher that was there, who I'm told is the special education teacher or assistant teacher, something like that. And she told him, first she didn't do anything, but he says, but they're bullying me. She said, they're not bullying you, they're harassing you. Okay, so I reviewed your bullying policy again. Harassment and bullying are both in the title of the policy. The procedure says when an allegation of bullying is made, that to a staff person, that staff person will report it to the principal, and the principal will investigate. So, and it also says a failure to do so is subject to disciplinary action. So I'm saying, first of all, that that teacher didn't do that. Then,
Mr. Allen, you're at 4 minutes, if you can wrap it
okay,
up. Precinct.
so the bullying continued. He called my wife. She went down, told him, and they swore, okay, it's going to stop. He went back to school again today, and the exact same bullying continued on all day long, yet talking all these things about tater tots. It's not a big thing, but what it is it triggers stress in my son, and nothing is stopping it. And it's 6 years now. So, Jesus, I'm sorry, but I have nowhere else to turn, and so I'm telling you that.
Okay, thank you for coming down and sharing that. Anybody else who didn't get a chance to sign up to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing no one, we're going to move on to board reports on activities in the last month or so. Anybody have anything they want to share? Chuck?
I'll go first before somebody else does. A lot of us were at the Awesome 3000. Salem-Keizer Education Foundation does a lot of remarkable things, but that is a truly great event, and I know that a lot of you were there, and it's kind of the highlight of the year for many people, I think. So, in fact, I heard from the Statesman Journal that they sell the most papers on Thanksgiving, and the second most number of papers that they sell are the day after the Awesome 3000 with the names of all the kids in there. Also today, many of us were at the Turnaround Achievement Awards that are put on in Keizer by Don Leopold, and they've been doing it for 21 years. Great event, great way to honor kids who have really made some significant turnarounds. And finally, I've been able to be fairly active at Claggett Middle School, working with their counseling department, excuse me, as they go through a process to be accredited, and they're just remarkable. There's students on that program, and administrators, parents, and a board member.
Thanks, Chuck. Anybody else? I'll go to Chris and then Jeff.
I'll just look at the camera and say thank you to all of you out there who helped volunteer at the Awesome 3000. As Karina said at the outset, 600 people volunteered for that event, and we couldn't do it without you. I do the finish line every year, and the team that we get, I was hoping Paul Dukopoulos would still be here because I was going to tease him a little bit. I stationed him right at the finish line. He high-fived at least 3,000 students that day and had a smile on his face the whole time. It was really sort of fun. I went to the Coalition for Equality's luncheon today and heard a outstanding speech by a young lady who is works for OEIB and works in their equity department, and I would just say that it was a really neat lunch and with a really good, thought-provoking kind of a speech. That's it.
Jeff, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I went to the Turnaround Awards today, and that was really a wonderful event, and I really appreciate everybody involved. We had a great speaker and a whole bunch of great turnaround student speakers and mentors after that. It was really good.
Nancy.
I just want to comment on the Turnaround Awards as well. Every single one of those kids who stood up mentioned their parents as a huge influence and mentioned their teachers that inspired them to turn it around. And I just think that really accolades go to those teachers who had some really tough kids and saw through them a spark and found a way to reach them and encourage them, and these kids are making it. And, you know, they're going to do great things. We're going to be reading about the great things these kids do. So kudos to the kids, kudos to their parents, and especially kudos to those teachers.
Anybody else? All right, with that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent for her comments.
I just have a couple, one announcement. I did just want to let the board know that we are in the process of applying for a SIG grant, so SIG Cohort 4 for Richmond Elementary. Previously, we had SIG cohorts at McKay, Hallman, Early College High School, Roberts High School. Richmond was selected based on the school report card. It is a competitive grant process, and there's 3 to 5 total schools in Oregon that will be selected. We have selected the transformational model, which does require that we place a new principal at that school, extend learning time for all students through extended day, week, and provide high-quality, job-embedded PD. So we'll keep you posted on that, but I wanted to be sure that that you had that on your on your mind. The second thing is last night, because we were doing something much more exciting than this, we got to miss, unfortunately, the first AVID senior high graduating class in 2015. With many more scholarships to come, this group of students has already received over $3 million in scholarships. We have a couple Ford Foundation finalists that we haven't heard about. 100% of the AVID seniors have applied to a four-year college. 90% of the AVID seniors have been accepted to a four-year college. 97% of the AVID seniors are planning to attend a 2 or a 4-year college, and 3% are planning to attend a technical school or military training. And the class GPA is 3.2. So, yay for AVID. And then I was going to mention that this is Melissa's last board meeting tonight, but in typical Melissa Cole fashion, she is working endlessly, so she's left the room at this point. But really, the middle school achievement can be pointed to her. So if you have a chance to see her before she's out of here on June 5th, a huge opportunity for her. We're really excited, but we're really going to miss her. So thank you to Melissa, and just sorry she wasn't here tonight. Well, she was here tonight, but she's busy, and you couldn't have a chance to applaud her. But if you would take a moment at some point and thank her, she's really done incredible work in this district. So that's it for my announcements.
Thank you, Christy. And with that, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you for coming, everyone.